Of Louisiana's largest coastal project argued the state ignored the Endangered Species Act when it applied for the required permits. Lawyers fired off a letter to the state demanding it stop work on the big river diversion project south of Belchase. They argued the state and federal agencies ignored the harm that river water would inflict on endangered sea turtles and a couple of bird species. No comment tonight from the state. On the other hand, Louisiana could be out $500 million if it's already spent if it cancels the project. Tonight in a Coast in Crisis report, what's the best way for Louisiana to build back some natural hurricane defenses, and how long should the state take to do it? What you are looking at is almost unheard of. One of the few places along Louisiana's coast actually adding land. Southwest of Morgan City, man lent a hand to nature, and a delta got built, completely by accident. Just over half a century ago, the Army Corps carved the Wax Lake outlet into the marsh, a channel from the Atchafalaya River to the Gulf aimed at preventing flooding in Morgan City.
It's sort of an accidental diversion project.
Alicia Renfro, a scientist with the National Wildlife Federation, points to NASA satellite images that show the dramatic conversion of water to land. Especially in flood season, the river coughed up sediment. Over time, a brand new delta formed. The group Restore the Mississippi River Delta sees Wax Lake as Exhibit A in the argument that the river, even today, can build land.
You'll see like how dense this is, and then we're getting so it's really thick along the shoreline.
Simone Malaz trudges through thick vegetation on an island that did not exist in the 1970s.
These are the good days in coastal Louisiana when you're fighting vegetation and you're hearing all the things that make this place alive.
Today, the river spits out more land. First, aquatic grasses, then sandbars pop into view, and finally islands with trees towering overhead. Natural hurricane protection, providing a buffer between the Gulf and the levees.
The more wetlands you can put out in front of communities, the better, to help slow down that storm surge.
To supporters, this all makes the case for the state's most ambitious effort to put the river to work to build land. It's also the most expensive and most controversial coastal project. The Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion would channel muddy river water into the bay on the Plaquemines Parish West Bank. When operated at its peak, over 500,000 gallons of water per second. Computer models show it would build 27 square miles of land over 30 years.
The Mississippi River built South Louisiana, and the Mississippi River is the most important tool in our toolbox to build and sustain coastal wetlands.
Some land would be lost in subsequent years to sea level rise and subsidence. Yet the diversion comes with a serious downside. Scientists warn it would devastate some marine life. A Corps environmental impact statement finds that all that fresh water would virtually wipe out the population of dolphins in Barataria Bay. Oyster growers see it as a death sentence for their industry. Plaquemines Parish and fishing interests have sued to stop the project. Down the road from the diversion site, the Native American community of Grand Bayou raises similar fears.
They're not listening to the people who live in the environment.
Rosina Philippe says her community never really got a seat at the table.
They have their projects, they plan them in silos, and then they let us know what they're going to do, but there's not enough input from the people who are connected intimately to the environment.
She and other critics want more immediate results, dredging projects to build land in months, not years. And the closure of canals, which became expressways for saltwater intruding into the marsh.
And if they don't aggressively pursue those other projects, then this diversion is just going to be a disaster for us, especially economically.
Mid-Barataria would be paid for with fines and settlements stemming from the BP oil spill. Over the years, the project cost ballooned to nearly $3 billion.
The cost seems to continue to grow in the project.
At a groundbreaking for a lock south of Houma, Governor Landry gave one of his few direct comments on the diversion.
We have projects like this one along the entire coast that need to be funded and that are actually shovel ready, that don't have the litigation problems that one does.
Behind closed doors, aides have looked for a compromise involving a potentially smaller project. Longtime supporters of the diversion fear Louisiana could miss the opportunity of a lifetime.
What we're really saying is, do we want more of Louisiana or more of the Gulf of Mexico?
Wendell Curall, the son of a fisherman, sat on the Coastal Authority board going back to when the project was in its infancy. But he believes the state could lessen those negative effects.
There's always the subtleties on how you operate these things.
For example, Curall suggests the state could manipulate the water flow, dredging material to channel more water to the west into Upper Barataria Bay rather than south. That could keep some of the fresh water away from key oyster beds.
When you do big projects, you're going to cause some issues. And the trick is, can minimize the negatives to the people around you and maximize the positives.
Back in Wax Lake, supporters see potential.
Everybody that I know, this is our backyard, this is our playground. It's where we come to go fishing, hunting.
State scientist Michelle Felterman grew up not far from Wax Lake.
When I was little, my dad used to say in the summertime, he's like, hey, let's go play at the sandbars. And this was the sandbars.
3/4 of a century after the Corps changed the plumbing in Wax Lake, the debate rages on over the power of the river to craft a whole new delta, to do great things, or bring terrible harm. As if this weren't complicated enough, federal trustees who control most of the BP funding recently wrote the state demanding to know whether it plans to go forward with the diversion. That raises the possibility the state could be forced to give back about $500 million it's already spent on the project.